Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. This is where I like to collect together all the different things that I picked up over the past week, present it to you, give you a little bit of background on it, maybe even turn you on to something new. And so this past week, most of you guys already know I took the week off. Monday had been a holiday, Memorial Day in the US. I took the rest of the week off, had a whole week. It was really awesome. And so of course I hit up a number of different record stores, 3 in fact, so lots and lots of cool stuff. 30 items to go through with you, 29 CDs, 1 box set, and I'll get into it here in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Hit it. Don't miss out on anything. Stay up to date on cool episodes like this, where I'm talking about the new stuff I got, but it's all in an effort to hopefully turn you on to something new. So on that note, let's go ahead and dive into it. And I always like to kick off with new releases. That's because that is the most, or my most favorite thing that I enjoy is new music coming out. Whether it's actual new original stuff or it's just a new album or it's archival, but something that hasn't been released before. Is my favorite stuff. And so I always really look forward to that. You guys know I do my album release schedule and I do the What Just Dropped series, all things that are to alert you guys to what's coming out. But really, that's for me, so I can stay up on stuff. And so this past week, 4 things came out that I was really interested in. First one up, I didn't necessarily have high hopes for, but it really turned out to be pretty darn good in the end of the day. I'm talking about the new Dead Daisies, Looking for Trouble. So if you don't already know, this is a blues covers album. And I'm not a big fan of the blues, which is very funny because back in the day, I took blues guitar lessons for something different other than rock, and I like to play the blues. I'm just not a big fan of listening to the blues. I know that's completely contradictory to that whole notion of things, but what I sort of found out is it's that slower, what I call kind of whiny blues that I don't like, but when it's really rocked up, I like it. And so anyways, this album here does just that. It rocks the blues. So there's good stuff on here and stuff I wouldn't have even expected. In particular, the song Black Betty is on here from Ram Jam. And so that's a cool one on here. Wasn't expecting that. First single that was released, Crossroads. I didn't check it out, so I didn't know, but that's one of those songs that everybody who does a blues album covers. And so I sort of felt like, man, it's been done so many times. We don't need to hear another version of it. But that turned out to be really good on here. Walking the Dog. I know that one from a number of different ways, but in particular, Rat did a version of it. I'm Ready, Going Down. A number of these I've heard from other artists that did pretty darn good versions of them. Some to the point that I didn't even know they were covers until years later. So I definitely enjoy those more than some of the other ones. Born Under a Bad Sign, I think, is a good one on here. But again, everybody has done that. Sweet Home Chicago, same kind of thing. But all in all, I gotta say, it is a fun listen all the way through. I'll definitely return to it. I don't know how often. It's like mini covers albums. I really want that new original material from a band. I'm a fan of them for the stuff that they write that's original, not for the covers. But still, it's a fun album. It's a good album. Marty Fredrickson produced it. He's the one who did their last album. He worked with Aerosmith. He kind of became popular in the songwriting category for people in the 90s and had a number of hits that way. But anyways, he's off doing these things with the Dead Daisies. And I was going to say, I think he's produced Buck Cherry, but I could be wrong. But he has worked with a number of different artists. Okay, next one is one that I actually had really high hopes for, and it kind of let me down, unfortunately. The Speaker War, self-titled debut album from Stan Lynch, former drummer with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but far more than a drummer. Co-wrote all the songs on here. Famous producers, worked with Don Henley, the Eagles, and a number of other artists, churning out really amazing songs. And so for this, kind of his first solo thing, again, high hopes. And the first song that came off of here, You Make Every Lie Come True, really has a Petty feel to it, a Tom Petty feel to it. And so does the next 6 tracks on here. Now, if you don't know, this album is recorded with a bunch of Nashville musicians, in particular the vocalist for this group, John Christopher Davis, had a deal in place, I guess, as a solo artist, and scrapped that in favor of forming Speaker Wars and doing this. And so here's where the turn happens. The first 6 songs are great. The last 4 songs suddenly become a country album, and John shifts from the way he had been singing, which was more of a Southern rock Tom Petty style, to a twangy country style. And it's like 2 different singers are on the album. And I gotta say, I love those first 6, but I'm not really digging the last 4. The whole album just tanks at that point from being a rock album to being a slower, bluesier country style album. Not saying it's bad stuff. It may be right up your alley, but it didn't work for me. If anything, they maybe should have taken those last 4 songs and interspersed them throughout so you could have had more peaks and valleys in it. All in all, though, still those first 6 songs, amazing. Glad to get it. I would like to see this band do more and see what a second album could do, especially if they go out and tour a bit for this and the band can gel together, and then we can really kind of see what that band can do on a follow-up album. All right, now one that I didn't have high hopes for or any expectations, although I enjoyed their last album that they did, and I sort of threw it into my cart as a, I guess I'll go ahead and add it in sort of thing, just to have one more new release, was the brand new Garbage album, which is called Let All That, I have to turn it around to read it, Let All That We Imagine Be the Light, which is kind of a cool title. There's the name of the band hidden down there. And this is kind of a fun one because the slipcase has all the writing on it. Same thing on the back side of this. So that's a sort of a fun thing. It's very nice, it's tight, it's well done. So when you're going to do cardboard cases and limited style packaging, this is excellent. I like this, but just straight digipack style things like this, I don't care for. I don't like that sort of thing. I'll take this, especially with the fact that there's this slipcase, so the thing doesn't open. I can't stand when you have things and they just swing open like that, and I can't leave them sitting out. But anyways, back to this. The new Garbage album, which has a real throwback vibe to the 80s synthwave style sounding stuff, which is, I can understand why I dig it so much, at least. Less of their 90s sound, but still totally rooted in, where they come from and all that sort of stuff. But I really, really liked this one, maybe even more so than the last album. And so I think the band, this is one of those bands that is even better today than they were in the 90s. But then I was not a huge fan of them. I saw the band, I had their first 2 albums, and then they went a little too sort of industrial or, 90s beat sampling style stuff that they were doing. And I didn't care for that. But now that they're doing stuff that's more like the 80s synthwave sound, oh my goodness. The first 4 tracks on here are so good, but the rest of the album also. So if you were ever a fan of Garbage or you like 80s synthwave, but you never checked this band out, go check out the brand new Garbage album and see what you think. It's very, very good. All right, this one here, pushed back since sometime in, I think it was May 2nd, it was due to come out along with the Blue Cheer. And finally, we get Wall of Voodoo, the Lost Tapes. And this is a 2 CD live collection of tracks from the later era of the band in the 80s with the Andy Preboy era. And so this is one of the ones from Record Store Day, getting a wider release on CD now. I highly recommend it, not just because I had gotten a vinyl copy and reviewed it for you guys, but I enjoyed it then enough to go out and buy my own copy on CD. That's how much I liked it. That should tell you a little something about how good that is. And I've never been a huge Wall of Voodoo fan, but I do like them. And I gotta say, the song selection that they have for these live tracks and the performances of them are full of energy and sound really, really good. Okay, and this one actually came out the week before. It just took a little bit to get to me. A group called Riven, Riven, and it's called Visions of Tomorrow. And this is one of those bands that's on this new label that I really like, Dying Victim Records. And all the bands that are on that label are sort of a cross between throwback to new wave of British heavy metal style sounding stuff and 80s thrash era. And some of them lean, one side a little bit more than the other. This one maybe more towards the hard rock sound than anything else, but definitely hard rock of the 70s mixed with some new wave of British heavy metal style sounding stuff. All in all, very good. It's a female fronted group. I don't know if there's a photo. Yep, there's a photo of them. I didn't know that when I was buying it. I simply checked it out. It's always interesting sometimes when you're just hearing things, and I just assumed it was a man singing that has a really good voice. And then later I opened this up and saw the picture, of course, realized she has boobs. Read down below, sure enough, it's a woman's name. And I was like, oh my God, it's a woman. I thought it was a guy that was singing. So I didn't buy it because of that, but I have really been enjoying the number of hard rock and metal bands that are fronted by women that are just sounding absolutely amazing. And this label, Dying Victim Records, is putting out a lot of them from all over the place. And so here's another one. If you've enjoyed some of those other ones, Hyena, remember them? I know a bunch of you guys checked that group out, really enjoyed it. This was another one, Riven. And that album, Hyena, is actually due today, so you'll see it hopefully next week. But finally, I'm going to be getting that. Okay, now I don't know, a few weeks back or so, I did an episode with Grant Arthur about rare and obscure albums. One of the ones I talked about was Heavy Metal Army, a Japanese group, although I later found out that they're made up of a bunch of Japanese-born Americans. I don't know how to do it. Maybe they were born in Japan but raised equally in America, and back and forth. So they're maybe as American as any other band, but at the same time, Japanese. And so this album, really amazing. And that band would also do two more under the name Eastern Orbit, same people, just different. And so somebody had commented about the group Murasaki. And the keyboard player initially telling me that was the same guy in this group. Turns out, no, it's not. It's a different guy. It's a guy from a Japanese metal group called Mariner out of the 70s. Or maybe in the 80s. I think Murasaki, the band, came first, and then maybe Mariner, I could be wrong. But either way, the keyboardist comes from there. But then the guy did a little bit more research and found out that the connection he was making was actually that the lead singer from Heavy Metal Army has since joined, I think around 2010, the band Murasaki. So he was saying, no, okay, I made a mistake. It's the singer that's in there. Well, yes and no. So as I said, he joined around 2010, and in 76 and 77, this band put out 2 albums. This is a best of collection. It's got 4 songs each from those 2 albums, plus 2 other tracks, a total of 10 tracks. So I bought this, and that vocalist is not on here. This is good stuff, don't get me wrong, but I was all excited in buying it because I thought I had found something with a connection to Heavy Metal Army, either the vocalist, the keyboardist, or something. And the one thing that I was able to get a hold of, the guy's not on, didn't join until 2010 or thereabouts. And he has since recorded a bunch of albums apparently with them, so I'm gonna have to try to track those down. But this group was a throwback to Deep Purple style stuff. In fact, they even cover the song Lazy on here. Double Dealing Woman opens this, and of course it sounds like Lady Double Dealer, the Deep Purple song. So if you want some cool 1976-77 era band that sounds like Deep Purple but is Japanese, Murasaki, check it out. It's called Murasaki Forever Plus 2. As I said, so it's best of. So that was a cool one. I had gotten that like a week earlier and it came completely crushed and destroyed. It wasn't just the case. Like this part of it was just smashed in, bent, torn, everything. So I have to return that one. And so I had to, get a replacement one ordered. And then this one came even faster. I waited 2 weeks for that one. And then this one here turned around and I got it in less than a week. Both of them coming from Germany. So I don't know why one took 2 weeks to get to me and another one came super fast and completely okay. And yet they were actually packaged the exact same way. That's Amazon for you. Okay, of course, one of the places I had to hit up was Sound Exchange, so I got a bunch of stuff there. And I already owned the deluxe edition of Purple, the 2 CD edition, the remastered plus all the bonus tracks. Those bonus tracks have since come out on vinyl as part of Record Store Day. And then I realized that I didn't own the deluxe edition of Core or Tiny Music. I looked up, Core is actually not available any longer. This one here, I can't remember if it is or is not, but either way, I decided I better pick these up before they're not available. So I added them to the collection. They, of course, are the 2 CD editions, which have all those cool bonus tracks and everything. I thought I had them. I guess I just, I've never, surprisingly, I've never been a big fan of Core. I got into them on Purple, and then I did not like Tiny Music. And I gotta say, hearing it now, and I haven't listened to it in years, maybe it's the remastered edition, but this sounded way better to me than I ever remember it being back in the 90s. This will always be the peak of Stone Temple Pilots in my opinion, but also giving a new listen to Core this go around, and I was surprised by how much I knew and enjoyed it. I've owned the CDs, but I just don't pull them out all that often. So that's probably why I had skipped over both of those. But of course, I want to get them into the collection. And I was going through a period this past week where I pulled out Stone Temple Pilot stuff and was listening to it because there's a new group by the guitar player from Stone Temple Pilots, and he's got Pete Shoulder. They've done an album. It's One Satellite something. I can't remember the name of it now. And it just got me excited about it. So I was listening to Stone Temple Pilots stuff. I was also listening to Talk Show and Army of Anyone. I think it's Army of Anyone. 2 side projects that the members of Stone Temple Pilots did. And so it just got me on that kick and I wanted some more. And I suddenly realized I didn't have those 2 deluxe editions. So I went ahead and got it. And then while I was shopping, I found a jewel case edition of 4. I already owned this one. I have the Digipack version that has the die cut star, so I'll never get rid of that. I do love that. It's just that it's been getting beaten up and it bugs me and I want to put it away and I can have a jewel case edition of it, which I always prefer anyways. You guys hear me say it all the time. I know I'm a broken record on that, but I do love it. Last week I picked up Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells 2003 30th anniversary edition. It was a re-recording, and so it just got me on Mike Oldfield. It got me on synthwave style stuff. That's why the garbage hits so good. And so I decided to pick this one up, another Mike Oldfield, and this one here is called Earth Moving, and he decided to record it with singers. So instead of being instrumental, he brought in a bunch of different singers for it, and they're all written more as, I don't call them pop songs, but I mean as individual radio style songs, and they range from a lot of different things, and they do have that signature keyboard sound behind them. And I think this came out in '89 or around that time frame. So that was kind of a fun one to get. Another one that I found on a jewel case edition was Don Henley. Cass County has so far to date latest studio album, although this is already, I think, 10 years old. I want to say it's 2015, give or take. And it's the standard edition. It doesn't have those 4 bonus tracks on it. The Digipack edition had that. And I had a copy of that too. But again, I just hate the Digipack, so I found a jewel case, so I had to pick up the jewel case edition. And I have to say, I never enjoyed this album But I was in an Eagles kick, and of course I wanted some more stuff from them, and so I went ahead and picked this one up more as a replacement. But I actually turned out to really enjoy the album. The first 2 or 3 songs on here, I guess the first 2 songs don't really do a whole lot for me. Take a Picture of It. Take a Picture of This was the lead track that came from this, and I did always enjoy that, but I never really gave the rest of the album a chance, and I have to say the rest of the album is pretty darn good, but this one here also veers into that country vein of things, and I don't really care so much for that twangy fiddle playing style country, and you get some of that on here, but I have to say that after years of not really enjoying it and sort of shunning it and not wanting to pull it out and give it a listen, or if I did, I get turned off after the first or second track and not go any further. I gave that a real listen and enjoyed it enough that I listened to it 2 or 3 more times after that. So it just goes to show you, your tastes change all the time. An album from 10 years ago that you thought was bad, and yet if you want more from that artist, it might be a time to go check out some of those albums that you thought were bad may turn out to be the right thing for you today. And I love finding stuff like that. All right, so I got a Japanese copy of the Joe Walsh album, The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get. I never understood what that meant, other than the fact that it's supposed to, I think, sound like a drunk person saying, the drunker you, or the smoker you drink, the smoker you drink, the more you drink, the drunker you get. But if you rework the words around, it still doesn't say that, but that is the saying. Anyway, this is one of those universal Japanese domestic releases. So $14, $15.99, somewhere in that price range, yet getting the art with it. That's why I keep flipping it over, because I had an MCA copy, unremastered, and just horrible art, nothing to it. This has all the art that you can expect. This thing even opens up gatefold style to unfold and show you the full art that it is. And this is one of those ones that I didn't go back and listen to all that much. And when I got this, I was actually really surprised by how much I liked the rest of the album. I think this was his debut solo album from '73. And I think I just kind of glazed over it because of that horrible packaging from MCA and the fact that it opens with Rocky Mountain Way, a song I've heard way too many times. But once I got past that, the rest of the stuff on here was really interesting and enjoyable, and not at all what I would have expected the album to be. So I've really been enjoying that one too. And it's strange, but sometimes buying an alternative edition, different packaging, any number of different things can sway, for me at least, my opinion on things and can open me up to stuff. And so I like being able to do that when I can find an inexpensive copy of something, especially if first go around, maybe I bought this album here as a used copy. I'm pretty sure that's how I had gotten it, or next to nothing. So now if I buy it sort of outright, $15, $16, it's no big deal. All right, now if you can believe it, this is the one Jethro Tull album I did not have in my collection, Thick as a Brick. And for whatever reason, the song never clicked with me. I didn't like it. Also because it's just 2 songs on the album. And I didn't know anything from it. It wasn't a hit. There wasn't some edited version that would get played on the radio, at least that I knew of. So I didn't know it. And I don't know. This was available. It was a sealed copy. It was $25. It's a CD DVD. The regular version, if you buy it, is about $40, I think, $39 give or take. So Anthony had a used copy, yet it was still sealed in perfect condition. So I went ahead and got it. It's also got the Steven Wilson remix. That was a big part of it, because remember last week I was getting Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Steven Wilson remixes, and then the week before that I had done the video with On Sea of Tranquility with Pete Pardo about Steven Wilson remixes. So you can see how these things work their ways through for a few weeks when this stuff is in my mind, and at least how I go about with shopping and whatnot. But turns out this is fantastic. I love it. I'm so glad to get it and have it in the collection. And of course, just one more of the Jethro Tull box sets now completed into the collection. Speaking of Jethro Tull, they just announced the Living in the Past box set, which I'm looking forward to because it's 4 CDs worth of material, including a Steven Wilson remix of this album. But I wanted to hear the original, and that does not come with the album. Plus, this is a US edition, which has a couple different tracks not on the original one, and I'm quite sure the one that's going to be part of the box set will be the UK edition, and have Locomotive Breath. This has Hymn 43 on it. So again, just wanted to get a standard edition. And for all the Jethro Tull albums that I have Steven Wilson remixes of, I've also got the equivalent original masters of them. And so being on Emerson, Lake and Palmer kick, I finally found the Nice. This is actually their third album, and this one here, interestingly, has the US art, but just the name of Nice was the UK edition of it, but they didn't like that album art with it. This is a reissue on the Immediate label, which is the label that had put them out originally, but now on CD. It's a Sony Music Special Products. So I was glad to get this. It's not quite as ELP as I would like it to be, but it is good, and you can definitely see where they were going. Definitely looking forward to picking up some more. I've got a best of on the way that I'm looking forward to getting. Terry and the Pirates, Too Close for Comfort live album. Turns out I had a version of this, but different artwork and everything. So duplicate, unfortunately, sometimes that happens. You know, you see a different album art and everything to it in a year and all that sort of stuff. And I assumed it was something different, and then got home and found out that the other one I had was really the same thing. But the other one, unfortunately, I had bought it off eBay and it came with water damage. And I think they just let me keep it. I don't think I had to pay for it. I think they refunded the money anyway. So I am glad to get this one. I can now get rid of the other one and just have this one in the collection. So not all bad, and probably why it didn't stick in my head, because in my mind it was damaged, and in my mind I didn't really own it. I needed a pristine copy of it. I managed to find 2 Sad Cafe releases, and in fact this one has the second and third albums. So it has Misplaced Ideals and Facade, second and third, and then this one here I think is their last album from '89. So Paul Young of Mike and the Mechanics is the singer in the group. That's why at least I was picking these up. It's a little bit more soft rock, easy, I don't want to call it easy listening, but crooning style with horns and whatever. I don't know that I would have liked it to be. There's some heavy guitars at different times, and so it's like this band is almost gonna rock, and then they don't. And so, like I said, certain songs on here, man, I really dig. And then other ones, it goes in the other direction. And so, I don't know. Might be one of those bands that will really grow on me in years. But I had some Sad Cafe and an anthology, a really poorly put together one. It was awful artwork, I remember. And I remember digging it back then, but I got rid of it for some reason. And I've never had it back in the collection just because it's very hard to find, actually. And when someone clarified for me that Paul Young from Mike and the Mechanics was not the Paul Young solo artist, but was in fact the guy from Sad Cafe, my mind was blown. I had no idea. For 30 years or whatever, I had always thought it was the other guy. And so glad to find out that at least I could go get some more stuff with Paul Young on it. And in this case, I got those 3 albums, so very cool. I got a Ken Hensley solo album. This one here is called The Last Dance, and it is on Sony Music. It's a later era album from, I want to say, early 2000s, a little hard to read, maybe 2003, give or take, on this. And Ken Hensley being the keyboard player from Uriah Heep. I think he also played for Blackfoot. I forget all the other groups he has played with, but he's one of those guys that's everywhere. And I've always really enjoyed him, so this was a cool thing to get. Didn't really blow me away, but I mean, it is good for what it is. Here's another one that I just picked up to get an original MCA Records copy of it, the Steve Gaines one and only solo album, One in the Sun. A little too bluesy for my taste in terms of what the Southern rockers could do, but I wanted to have a copy of it. I had a reissue of it. It was on the Lemon Records label, so nothing wrong with it. I just sometimes really like seeing those original ones. Even though the art's not as good necessarily, it's like when I see MCA Records and the way that it's written up, I mean, I grew up with ones looking like this. So, and yeah, there is a cutout in it. I don't care. There's a lot of nostalgia for me tied up in those. So I enjoy it. Got some metal too. Realm, Endless War. This turned out to be great. Really, really enjoyed it. Power metal verging on a bit of thrash. Road Racer Records version of this. Glad to get that. I think maybe the one that I've enjoyed the most that was kind of a surprise out of all of this that I took a chance on was a group called Elegy. And this one here is called Labyrinth of Dreams, 1992. Kind of progressive metal sounding stuff. Really don't know a whole lot about this artist, but I can say that this album start to finish is really good. I enjoyed this the whole way through. Pulled this out maybe more than anything in the collection. Another one, Trust, French group. This one is called Repression and has the song Antisocial, the one that Anthrax made popular on State of Euphoria. Of course, an English version because this is in French. And I'm glad to get this. I have a Trust album that was their one and only English language album. But I've always seen this one, and it's their most famous one because it has that song on it, and the LP editions of those go for a lot of money. So I snagged that, but the French language just doesn't translate. I don't know how to put it, but sometimes when languages, music or lyrics are in different languages that I don't understand, that I don't speak, and the way that it's sung, it's just kind of like an instrument in there. It's its own thing, and I don't necessarily need it. I listen to Japanese groups that are like that. But the French language, or the way that this guy sings, it's so in your face. It's kind of like if Lemmy was singing in French with Motorhead. The vocals are so upfront and in your face that it was just this noise hitting me, but I couldn't understand anything that was being said. So at least at first, I did pop this out. I'm gonna, give it another listen at some point, but it didn't do it for me. I was a little bit bummed. I walked away thinking that that was the score of the day, and it just did not gel with me at all, but that happens. And that's why I keep the collection, because you never know when 10 years on, opinion's gonna change, like with that Don Henley. Christian rock group called Jerusalem. I only recently learned about them, and they're a European, Swiss, maybe Swedish, I don't know. They're from a different country and normally sing in that language, their native language. This one is in English, but I did not like the music or the production on this. And again, sometimes my mind is just not in the mindset to be listening to that style of music. And so I'm going to put this with the rest of my Christian rock music that I have right now. I've been building a small collection over the last year or so from different ones that I have found that I really enjoy. And of course, when I'm in the mood for that style of stuff, I'll pull this out. Maybe it'll click with me at that time. I am glad to get this because as far as I know, this might be the one, there might be one other English language, but everything else, because a bunch of stuff has been reissued recently, but they were all the foreign language albums, so I chose not to pick those up. David Urich, I think that's how the name is said at least. Shred guitar player, playing it up amazing. First couple songs on here is what you'd expect. And then it gets into some more bluesy and different styles, and kind of typical to some guitar records where they might open and shred. It's like Gary Hoey always did a really amazing shred style song, and then it would go through all these other styles, and the rest of the album wouldn't be like the one song that I like. This guy's kind of the same way. It's a good album, but it doesn't stay the same all the way throughout. So the opening track, Fury, really amazing, and Quarter to Three, the second track, pretty darn good. And then it kind of goes off in these other tangents, but still glad I picked it up. I mean, I think it was $4.99. So a lot of these things just very cool like that. All right, and the last four here to wrap up with, I picked up Susie Quattro, Main Attraction. This was not at all for me. I mentioned, if you watched my scores from the record store, that I was really hoping to finally click with her. She's such an iconic artist. I've just never really found anything that I liked from her. And she did move around from different styles, but she sounds like a twangy country artist singing pop music. So put it aside. Doesn't mean I won't like it. I won't be able to get into it at some point. Just didn't click with me at that point. However, Wishbone Ash, Wishbone 4 turned out to be fantastic. I don't know why I didn't pick this up before. I was on a Wishbone Ash kick a year or so, maybe 2 years back, buying everything I could get my hands on from them. Obviously, this album was not readily available. Found this Japanese copy of it. So good. Really enjoyed that. And maybe my favorite things that I got were my 2 final Blue Cheer albums that I didn't have in my collection. And I now own every Blue Cheer album that they did. But these 2 out of the 70s, I want to say these are early 70s era, were the ones I didn't have. I had a best of where a couple tracks each were on it, and that was the only way that I was able to hear anything from them. And I debated on buying them on vinyl, and that was just a couple weeks back that I was going to do it, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I found these. And I didn't even know they had been issued in Japan. I wasn't able to find them as jewel cases or anything like that, but there you go, 30 items, 29 CDs in one box set. So as you can see, I had an amazing week with not only new releases, but also cool archival used, stuff like that I found at the different record stores that I went to. And great time off, was well rested, everything. By the time you're seeing this, I'm already back at work. Because I don't know if you know, I actually film these episodes on a Sunday and they post on a Wednesday, but that's why I don't have to film during the middle of the week, because it's already bad enough that I have to film the music news roundup on Thursday night to post Friday, and what just dropped on Friday night to post Saturday. So I've already got to do those 2 after work, and I don't want to have to film this one, say, on Tuesday. I like to give myself a few days off. But anyway, a little behind the scenes for you there with that. So I do hope that maybe you found something in this that you want to search out yourself, or maybe just reminds you about something cool you got on your shelf and you haven't pulled out for a long time. Like I said, go back and maybe check out, look up online one of those albums that you didn't like at the time from a favorite artist, and see maybe if your tastes haven't changed, because that happens to me all the time, and I just love when it happens. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon.